Illinois football goes to 7-3, and you know what? Shout out to the defense.
You are Locked On Illini, your daily podcast on the Illinois Fighting Illini. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome one, welcome all to another edition of Locked On Illini. Thank you all so much for making us your first listen each and every day. My name is Sonny Verma, your host here at Locked On, which, by the way, has become the #1 sports network in the country. So we thank all of you. Today, we're going to do another post-game recap, and why not? Illinois comes off with a 24-6 victory over Maryland Terrapins. There shows you where my brain is right now. It's a game where, you know, it's one of those grab a seat, grab a coffee, grab whatever emotional support beverage you might have, because Illinois, as I mentioned, is 7-3. So let's talk about how we got there. Saturday wasn't a fireworks show. It wasn't any sort of track meet. It wasn't a cinematic Big Ten football game. This was more just toughness. It was kind of the new age Illinois identity. And sometimes that matters too. Illinois takes down Maryland 24-6 at Geese Memorial Stadium. And it's exactly the kind of result that good, stable programs stack in the process of maturing. Because let's be honest, the beginning of this game looked like the Illinois offense rolled out of the bye week still wearing slippers. 3 punts in the first 4 drives, a rare questionable interception by Luke Altmyer, a touchdown erased by a penalty, and later 4 straight snaps from the 1-yard line and getting 0 points out of it, which is just not what you expect from this Illinois offense. But here's the difference between this year's Illinois team and Illinois teams of years past. This team never unraveled. They regrouped and they responded. The story of the game to me, and I know it's going to be controversial to maybe say this, was Aaron Henry's defense. And I can't believe I'm saying that sentence with confidence. The defense today won Illinois the football game. Not survived it, not held on, not did enough. The defense today dictated it. 9 pass breakups, 2 goal line 4th down stops. They only allowed 6 points today. They held Maryland to 55 rushing yards. Guys, Maryland's quarterback, Malik Washington, was one of the best dual threat quarterbacks in the Big Ten over the last month. And Illinois held him to 6 rushing yards. And I don't think that's by accident. That's game planning. That's discipline. That's tackling. And bottom line, that's execution. There are stars everywhere on defense, but there's one guy who stood out the most to me, and that's Pat Farrell. Clearly his best game as an Illini. He had, I believe, a half a sack, multiple pass breakups, and, of course, the game-sealing deflection. Matthew Bailey, I talked about in the Talk Illini Discord. He had some really nice tackles, 10 altogether. I really felt like Matthew Bailey was the tone setter for today's game. And again, it's the bend don't break defense that today never broke. Yeah, they gave up yardage on occasion. I think Maryland got 293 total yards, but again, 293 of that was via passing. The rushing simply just didn't happen. The turning point came late in the second quarter when Illinois was up just 7-6, facing a 4th and short in the red zone. Brett and Lunny they should have kicked the field goal. Instead, they rolled the dice. Barry Lunny Jr. dialed it up. First down, drive alive. 3 plays later, Caden Fagan punches it in. Momentum all of a sudden flipped. Control established. Crowd engaged. Maryland officially starting to get nervous. And from that moment on, Illinois ran through Maryland's front 7, finishing with 225 rushing yards, which was a frustration for a lot of Illini fans watching the game, at least the folks I was paying attention to on social media, saying, hey, Maryland's rush defense is really not good. Why are we not running the ball more? And that's what we eventually did. 152 rushing yards in the second half alone. And talk about a Brett Bielema win. That is literally the Brett Bielema blueprint. Win late, win heavy, win downhill. You wore that Maryland defense out. Talk about the offense a little bit. It wasn't a highlight day statistically for Luke, but it was a good enough winning quarterback performance. 172 yards, 2 passing touchdowns. He also had 62 rushing yards. And another highlight run that was unfortunately called back because of a phantom holding call. I'll be honest, I didn't see it. But guys, can we for a second talk about Hudson Clement? Earlier this season, he was averaging just 26 yards per game. He didn't have a touchdown in, I believe, his first 8 games they mentioned on the telecast. Well, the last 2 games, he's averaging 78 yards per game, and now he's got 3 touchdowns. Talk about what development looks like. It looks like Hudson's finally settling into his own as an Illini wide receiver. There's a development of a trust between Luke and between Hudson. I mean, I'll be honest, Hudson had probably the 2 easiest catches for touchdowns that a wide receiver in college football can have. But still, you like to see Hudson finish this season strong, because certainly that's what he has been doing. Again, overall, this wasn't a style points win. This was more of a, for me, program validation type of win. This team, its fan base has lost a lot of the energy that they had since they've been out of the college football playoff race. But this team clearly hasn't. In fact, I hate to say this, but you can see on the other side of the field, that Terrapins team has essentially given up. Their will was broken, in particular today. Excuse me. I should mention Illinois now that they're 7-3. It's the first time they've won 7 games in back-to-back seasons since 1990. Again, if you are 20 years old, if you're a student in college right now, you don't understand how good you have it. A lot of this, please don't take for granted. Please never take Brett Bielema for granted. Don't take Barry Lenny Jr. for granted. And certainly do not take Luke Altmyer for granted. This was his second to last home game. The defense, again, let's just be honest, over the last 2 weeks is trending upward. Not just surviving, but trending upwards. They've given up 19 points to 2 pretty good Big Ten offenses. Illinois today won physically and emotionally after a bye week, which is really all you ask for. And now you're talking about a path to the 9 wins still being there. And quite honestly, the path to 10 games and that opportunity still being there. Not the prettiest win, but a win nonetheless. And sometimes that's all you need. It's almost the bye week. Time to look back and crown this week's MVP on Who Delivered, powered by DoorDash. Just like you can win every Saturday with DoorDash Streaks, saving more every time you order. These players delivered when it mattered most. Let's break it down. For today, I'm going to pick Hudson Clement. And why not? He ultimately had 72 catches on 3 yards. And, of course, those 2 touchdowns. No hesitation, no delay. If you've been watching Hudson back-to-back, you see that the momentum is certainly turning around in his season. And just like Hudson Clement delivered for the Illini, DoorDash delivers your Saturdays with DoorDash Streaks. You save every Saturday you order, stack it up all season. You could save up to $250, including $100 in DoorDash credits. Order this Saturday. Keep the streak alive. Fuel your game day only with DoorDash. Terms apply. Promo period through 11/18. So where do we go from here? Now Illinois is sitting at 7-3, and they're going to have a very tough game against a Wisconsin team who, in that first half, put up a pretty good fight against Indiana. It's again, one of those where Illinois is no longer the team that people are talking about much, but sitting at 7-3, and because the Big Ten is having such a historic bottom of the conference when you talk about standings. I mean, there's like 3 or 4 teams that are 0-6. I saw ridiculous, but there's a lot of teams muddled in the middle. And Illinois, fortunately, has one of the easier schedules. But even though I say it's an easier schedule, that does not mean it's an easy schedule. It's not something that you can just take advantage of. Again, you're not more talented than the other team most of the time. This Wisconsin team looked pretty good in the first half. They struggle in the second half. But again, they're playing Indiana. Indiana, arguably the best team in the entire country. Wisconsin's offense is struggling. And so, of course, we're going to recap that or preview that game a little bit more as the game gets closer. But there's no timetable or no time set for that game yet. We'll work on that whenever I'll announce that whenever it is announced. We'll hear from we'll find out on Monday. But again, this Illinois team is still working out its kinks, but it looks like it's settling in as what it is. A Big Ten team in the second tier of the Big Ten Conference. Clearly not in the elite category, but I think it's a borderline top 25 team. Who knows? There were some upsets today. They might sneak into the top 25 when it's announced tomorrow. And if they don't this week, then maybe it'll take after Wisconsin. But again, just because a certain amount of momentum is gone for the college football playoff, folks, keep watching this football team. Luke, again, I'm going to say is the best quarterback we've had probably ever. I'll be honest, I was too young to watch Jeff George. I know you can talk about Nate Scheelhaus and many other players, but Luke has shown a commitment to the University of Illinois. I'll be honest, I like the crowd that I saw today on the TV telecast. Great job if you were there. That's what this team needs. 7-3, the job is not done. But again, just go 1-0 every week. Next week, you battle a Wisconsin team, a team that is clearly struggling. But we all know Brett Bielema's probably had this rematch against Luke Fickell circled for a very long time, at least since that last game that we had. Aaron Henry and this defense, look, after that Washington game, I finally jumped off the bandwagon, right? Not that I was necessarily like seatbelt on. I always had my one foot off, but you got to, if we're going to hate on Aaron Henry for when he struggles, we have to give credit when they don't. And I know bend don't break frustrates everybody, me included. But ultimately, the job of a defensive coordinator is to now not allow the opposition to score points. Last week, against a very good Rutgers potent offense, they allowed 13 points. Today, against a dynamic quarterback, against some very good wide receivers, they did not give up a single touchdown. Just 6 points, all in the first half. In the second half, Maryland Terrapins didn't score, period. And now, granted, they had opportunities. They went for it on fourth down. But still, I'm not saying I've jumped off the ship of wanting Aaron Henry gone. I still, I said after that Washington game that I was now in the point where I wanted him gone, but I'd still be evaluating him on the rest of the season. First two games after that Washington game, let's be honest, he's passed the test. He's still got 2 more games to go. And next week, we play a Wisconsin team where, let me be honest with you folks, stinks on offense. Their defense has picked it up, but their offense is one of, if it's not the worst offense in the Big Ten Conference, I would be shocked. And that's why I do feel pretty confident that we can win this game. I think maybe some Illinois fans are going to be a little too overconfident because they're just going to look at their record and not really take into context that Wisconsin has turned around their season somewhat since that Oregon loss, where they kept up with Oregon. I'm not going to say they were ever competitive, but they kept up with Oregon. And then same thing goes, of course, they get that win against the Washington Huskies, which, by the way, the Washington Huskies, a team that we got embarrassed by. And the first half, they kept up with Indiana. It's going to be a tough matchup that Illinois fans should not be too overconfident about. I didn't see a lot of Illinois fans too overconfident about this Maryland game either. I mean, the spread was 16.5 coming into kickoff. It jumped 1 full point before kickoff today. It was 14.5, I believe, just 2 days ago. Illinois covered the spread. Good teams win. Great teams cover. How good is this Illinois team? Well, I think we're kind of finding out every single week. But the Wisconsin game, the reason I feel kind of confident about it, and again, I'll dive more deeper into this after I watch the All-22 here and I talk to some Wisconsin people and really learn about their football team, is the advantage Illinois now has 100% for the rest of their schedule is they're clearly better on the offensive end. And I don't think that no matter how badly the Illinois defense may play, now, hopefully no one clips this down the road. I might be jinxing everything. But I don't think there's any way an Illinois defense can play so bad against the following two offenses that our offense can't outscore them. Does that make sense? Was that English that I just said? Let me try to rephrase that. Our offense can outscore any of the other two offenses on their best days against our defense. I think that kind of makes a little bit more sense. That's why I feel a little bit more confident. These last 2 weeks, I wasn't as confident because I've seen what Rutgers' offense can do. And I've seen what Maryland's offense can do. In particular, when I was watching their all-22, their wide receivers are really talented, guys. Malik Washington is a really talented freshman quarterback. But Illinois handled business. They did exactly what they're supposed to do. This had all the potential in the world to be a letdown game. And it looked like for the first half, that's exactly what it was going to be. Not that I thought, there was any threat of us losing, but the execution wasn't there. Us in the Talk Illini Discord, by the way, link should be in the description. We were talking during the game, which, by the way, all of you should be. If you're not in Champaign for the game, definitely be in the Talk Illini Discord. We have a great community there. We talked about how lifeless the team looked. And, a lot of finger pointing, like what's going on. But in the second half, there's something to say about having a college football team. And I feel like I have to mention it because just saying that, when your team can look ho-hum and still produce an 18-point victory, that hasn't been said very often for the Illini football program. And I want to give all credit again to Brett Bielema. Someone mentioned in the Discord, Lovie Smith in all his time here has 17 victories. Brett Bielema in his last 2 seasons at Illinois has 17 victories. It's not an elite program yet. I know some people want to jump immediately to be an elite program. But what Brett has built is a very solid one. And you know what? In my opinion, it's on its way to becoming even better. The NBA is back, and there's no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you missed the start of the game or want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who'll score next to any fourth quarter comeback. Plus, you can even combine your live plays into a same game parlay for a bigger payout. It keeps every game exciting, no matter if your team's winning or they're losing. Right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So head to FanDuel.com to sign up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. I appreciate having you guys on. If you haven't already, make sure you hit the like button and make sure you're subscribed to the channel. We hit 3,700 subs in the last 48 hours. Thank you all so much. Again, we're already the second biggest Illini YouTube channel, but we're actually the fastest growing, believe it or not. This channel's only been around for a year and a half, and we're already the second biggest. And quite honestly, let's be a little humble here. The third place is not very close, so let's go after number one. Let's get to some of your comments before I head out. And again, make sure you're subscribed. I went live immediately after the game yesterday, Illinois basketball against Colgate. I had an episode yesterday morning, so that's 3 episodes in a 48-hour span. I'm jotting down player grades. I rewatched the basketball game this morning, so I'll have that episode ready for you either Sunday or Monday morning. I have not decided. If you're an Illini fan, whether it's football, whether it's basketball, make sure you're always tuned in to this here channel. Jason Ron, good friend of the show, says there are enough upsets today that Illinois might find themselves ranked tomorrow. Yeah, I think you're right, Jason. I was passively paying attention to what was happening in the other games, so I don't know for sure. But if not next week, I think we're getting closer and closer. And by season's end, who knows? Jason also says, it was a very long and just blah game. Thankful for the win. Next 2 weeks will be tough just because of the defenses we are playing. 100% right. It's offenses, I'll be honest, I really don't respect. The defenses, absolutely I do. But I really like our offense. And I don't see our offense having two blah games in a row. The offensive line, I didn't even talk about them all day long. I think the offensive line had a fantastic game today, and I believe that's 2 in a row. So who knows? We might be turning things around at the end of the season, which a lot of us kind of guessed they would because we saw how daunting I hate using that word because of who we lost to, how intimidating the first half of the schedule was. And then we all saw that, the schedule certainly gets softer in the second half. And Illinois is playing that way. We had three losses to teams that we were underdogs to. And now the teams that we're favored to beat, well, we're not just beating, but we're covering the spread. Nolan says, defense was very solid. That's 2 in a row. Finished the season 9-3. It's another great season. Get a shot at another SEC team. That's what I keep saying, Nolan. Like 9-3 is not, that's never been done here. And you still have that opportunity. You're going to be favored against Wisconsin. You're going to be favored against Northwestern. You want to send Luke off on a high note, right? I've already said he's the best quarterback we've ever had. You want him to have those sort of accolades. He deserves it. This program, back-to-back, if you can win 9 games in a row, that's going to help recruiting. Just take a look at our recruiting rankings now. There's a reason it's that high. Jason says, number 20, 21, 22, 24, and 25 lost today. Is that right, Jason? I was not aware of that. Okay, so yeah, who knows? We might be able to sneak in on the top 25. St. Dominic's Rosary, haven't seen you in a while. Hello, sir. Says, I'm worried about next weekend against Wisconsin. They played Indiana at Indiana better than Illinois. No Big Ten team got blown out by Indiana like Illinois did. Even at Illinois unprepared. I get what you're saying, and you're right. I'm not making excuses. 63-10 ended the season essentially, because I truly believe that's the reason we're not ranked right now. But at the same time, the Illinois team that played in that second half was severely depleted. Having 6 of your top defensive backs out. I get what you're saying. And again, I'm not sitting here trying to defend Illinois in any sort of way. You're right. Wisconsin looked good in that first half, but I had the game on my small screen. Wisconsin couldn't do anything in that second half. Nothing. Jason also says Wisconsin and Northwestern have very, very good defenses. St. Dominic says year 5 for Brett. That's all I'm going to say. Yeah, you know what? Year 5, I don't know where you're going for this, but maybe okay. Let's just finish your thoughts. I see it. It takes a decade for Brett Bielema to build a playoff team like Cignetti in one season, but Brett is a top coach. Yep. Okay, so let me finish this thought first. 100%. You can't compare anybody to Kurt Cignetti because every program in the country can say the same thing. You have to take context into account. What Kurt Cignetti is doing hasn't happened in 100+ years of college football. You can compare Brett to other coaches who were maybe hired at the same time, but you know what? I will tell you, and all the diehard Illini fans, please, if you're watching this now, let me know live in the chat or comment afterwards. When the day Brett Bielema was hired, if you were told that after year 4 and year 5, Brett Bielema and the Illini football team, keep in mind the time. After year 4, they're going to win 9 games. Year 5, they're going to win 9 games. How many of us would take that? I'm answering the question for you. 99% of us would take that. Illinois is not a great job. We were one of the worst teams in the Big Ten at the time. It's not like we're shelling out money like Indiana is doing. St. Dominic's, let's be honest. How much money are you shelling out to the NIL? Because Indiana's coffers are big. Those billionaires are spending a lot of money on the coaching staff and the football players. Illinois doesn't have that cushion. I think the job Brett Bielema has done is incredible. And if you were trying to imply that after year 5, this is Brett Bielema year 5, and they still have the potential to win 9 games, if you were implying that that's a bad thing, I'm just going to simply disagree with you. St. Dom says, hey, Sonny, if Illinois loses to Wisconsin next week, is Bielema still a good coach? Absolutely. Of course. There's not many coaches that could do what Brett Bielema has done at Illinois. There's no other way to put it. You know what tells me that? History tells me that. I don't know if you heard what I said. Illinois hasn't won 7 games in back-to-back seasons since 1990. That's a very long time. This isn't a program that's historically winning 7, 8, 9 games. Even getting to 7 was a stretch. And now we have the ability to maybe get to 8 next week. And then to 9, which we haven't done ever. So yes, you hope you beat Wisconsin, But Wisconsin's got a defense that is showing up. And you're playing in Madison. You can't take any games for granted. I've said this all season long. Illinois is where it's at because of its coaching. It's not the talent on the field. Because Illinois still is more of a developmental program. Jason says, giving defense a lot of credit for Maryland's receivers, just not catching balls. Okay. And Brian says, thank you for recognizing Aaron Henry's defense today. Yeah, I mean, okay. St. Dominic also says Wisconsin's a bad program with nothing to play for. Still didn't get blown out at Indiana by 53 points. Bielema is not it. I'm just early on calling it. Wait until next year. You'll see I'm right. That's fine. You also are a very big proponent against Brad Underwood. And I think Brad's absolutely killing it at Illinois right now. Brett hasn't built anything. Signetti has built I can't entertain the Signetti comparisons because it's not that Brett wouldn't compete with that. There's no coach in the country. You want to compare Nick Saban at every stop that he's had on what he's done the first year he's been at a program? Not as good as what Curt Signetti has done. Who's the greatest head coach of all time? Nick Saban. Compare his year one records at each program that he's been at to Curt Signetti. You know what? Curt Signetti wins. So if Nick Saban isn't going to beat Signetti, then yeah. If that's your barometer, I feel bad for you, and you may need to consider just being a Hoosiers fan. Bilba says Signetti is the exception, not the rule. Exactly. You don't get credit for beating a 3-7 Wisconsin or a 5-5 Northwestern team. Illinois should be further along in Bielema's fifth year. Okay, we simply just we disagree. If Illinois can all of a sudden, once again, make a New Year's Day bowl, go up against an SEC team in back-to-back years, that is, some would argue, that may be the peak of Illinois. And maybe not peak. This is a team that can make the playoff. But that's the top tier of what any Illini fan can expect. And I just, I don't know how old you are. I don't know how long you've been following Illinois football. But when you just take a look at the landscape, just think of what this program looked like before Brett got here. And now we're complaining that the team won. Again, I'm not trying to jinx it. Okay. So let's just back-to-back 7 years. I mean, that's how you make progress, right? What if they go back-to-back 7 years or 7 wins next season? Next season should be a rebuild of a year, right? We're losing a lot of talent. They may not make it to 7, but what if they do? That shows me that this is a clear sign that this program is on an upswing. And just because Illinois, I mean, I can't imagine talking to myself the day before Brett Bielema was hired and saying, hey, listen, year 5, Brett Bielema, again, this is hypothetical, it's going to be 9-3 again at Illinois. You're going to play an SEC team. You're going to win your 10th game in back-to-back years. You did that year 4. You're about to do that in year 5. And you're going to be disappointed about it? Zero chance. I've been following this football program for way too long. That's not going to happen. Mr. T says this rivalry game will be Wisconsin's last home game and possibly looked at them as their bowl game. Oh, trust me, I'm very close friends with a lot of Wisconsin content creators, and they feel like they see blood in the water. They feel like Illinois is a vulnerable program right now. But can I be honest with you? So did the Maryland people I talked to. Ask Jason Ron, who was in this chat. Jason was scouring the Maryland message boards, and they're all thinking that Maryland's offense would feast on this Illinois defense. That Maryland offense did not score a single touchdown today. Bilba says, Bielema year 5, and we're complaining about winning only 24-6 in a conference game. That alone shows progress. How? Absolutely. Great point. Bilba, how many times were we on the opposite end? Crib says, we got to spend more money like we spend. We got to spend more money like we spend badly. Yeah, I mean, but that's on us, right? That's on me. How am I investing enough into NIL? Are you investing enough into NIL? The people who are probably a lot more fortunate than us, who have more expendable money, are they spending more money in NIL? You know what will make them do things like that is more and more successful seasons, more and more 7 wins, 8 wins, 9 wins, maybe 10 win seasons, playing in January. Wins is going to bring your program attention. And I think Illinois, quite honestly, is well on the way to do exactly that. Again, thank you all for joining me. I'll wrap it up there. On your way out, please hit the like button. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel. Got a lot more content for you guys. Again, the player grades are ready, so it's just a simple matter of me hitting the press record button. Until next time, ILL. Love you guys.